it was the years following college where I started asking myself, where do I belong? You know, where am I supposed to go? I want to go back to Japan. I desperately want to go to Japan. My brother still lives there. My dad still lives there. All my friends were there. I wanted to go back. I knew that I couldn't. I couldn't go back. I was homeless for 4 months on the streets of Boston. Homeless. Park benches under trucks. I stole food from convenience stores. I didn't understand the process of engaging in all that I did when I was younger, following my dad's footsteps, my mom's footsteps, you know, hyper focused, hard work. It fell apart. I pulled myself together, and then I ended up working for PBS. I was the assistant director editor for Frontline for a couple of years, and I made over 35 documentaries, long form, and I made TV shows, and then I started engaging in the process of seeing what America is all about, seeing what the diversity of America is all about. Not just black, white, Asian, Native American, Hispanic, but what we're really all about. And I started touring around the country as a speaker and as a performer. I did a one-man show called Ethnic Man. I was in the plane every 4 or 5 days. And I started to see that the diaspora and the magnificent diversity of America was far more than just the simple words that we use to describe who we are. And that to me was the hard work that I knew I started to need to do. I became part of a much larger mission to engage in the process of dismantling all the boxes that keep us in our place. And then a bunch of years ago, my wife and I decided we're going to have to adopt. So we did, and we adopted 2 girls. Now, they are now 17 and 10. Sorry, Katie. You can hear me. There's everything Dad does. Now, people come up to us and they say things like, "Oh, you're so cute. Do you speak Chinese?" Like, Katie's like, what is speak Chinese? Oh, they assume, you know, are you going to go back and bring them back to China where you got them? They were adopted through foster care. Right? People assume when they see my daughters with us, our daughters with us, that we went all the way halfway around the world to pick up these 2 girls. No. One was 13, one was 6. They lived in foster care. Very, very complicated, bad, traumatic experiences. And we decided to bring them to our home. Right? It's the assumption of where they come from. And they're not even like, they're Chinese, ethnically Chinese and Vietnamese and Japanese. They're half sisters. But the assumption is always, right, in America, that we went to China to pick them up. And that they speak Chinese. But it's really the experiences, right? It's really who you are. You know, is blood what transfers all this stuff? It's experiences. And speaking of experiences, yesterday, in the hallway, there's these 2 women who are going to this particular convention. One of them said, I know it's a stereotype, but I'm a really bad driver, and it's such a bad stereotype against, you know, Chinese people, but I'm just so bad. And the other one said, that's okay, I'm really bad with directions. So I started cracking up to myself thinking, well, my daughter, who's going to be 18 in 6 months, is learning how to drive. And I can tell you, she literally often doesn't remember left and right. I'll say, no, she goes right. And I'm like, don't do the stereotypical thing! Speaking of stereotypes, she's extremely good at math. Extremely good at math. To the point where I'm like, stop! AP this, advanced placement that, you know, trigonometry. I'm like, you're only 17 years old. I don't even know algebra. Right? So stop living the stereotype. I travel around the country. I've traveled to Japan and Germany doing workshops and lectures. And the discussion about things like in Japan, ibunka rikai, which means cultural understanding, is sort of becoming a necessary thing, very difficult to sell, because Japan still has its shortcomings. From an economic world perspective, take a look at this. What do I see? I see an attempt, a very good attempt. But what is first flush? Right? This is an example of the transfer that doesn't work well. What am I supposed? I can't walk into the store and say, I don't understand what that's supposed to mean. So my last documentary, Model Minority Do the Math, did very well on PBS. It reached 56% of U.S. households. Got a Telly Award, and getting great responses from people around the U.S. because it's about the impact of the model minority myth, particularly for Asian American college students and young Asian American and Asian immigrants. It's so significant that UIC, where we did a lot of the interviews, they have one of the highest number of suicide attempt rates and suicide rates and depression for college students on a city college campus. Why is that? It's because the assumption always is. They're in place. The stereotype is always there. And the pressures are magnificent. The pressures on me were magnificent. Being homeless was not because I just couldn't find a job. The significance of what we do to ourselves often is traumatic and tragic. We have to be careful. So how do we empower ourselves? Yes, Jackie Chan does not represent all of us. It's impossible. Although he might think he does. I don't know if he's good at math. If he was, I'd say, okay, maybe do a little work. But it's the history, right? World War II, internment camps. And earlier on, in the 1700s, the description of what Asian was. You have Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and Malaysian, and Polynesian. That was the 1700s, mid-1700s. Already back then, they were describing Asians as being just, a combination of all these things. And today, what do? We take a look at what Asia is. And we have Asia Central, we have Asia Western. And Asia is a huge place, the largest population of race-based category in the world. So if we were to eliminate race as a category, let's just say we say, okay, the word Asian is a lot more diverse than just, the acanthic eyeballs, the straight hair, and all that kind of stuff. What is it then? It's experiences. Experiences a culture. What is culture? Do you take your shoes off when you enter the house? That is how far away do you stand? Do you shake? Do you bow? Those are, and if those are internal, not just practice. So these are the practices that we have. We have to be proud of these things. Ethnicity is the history of your culture. I'm ethnically Filipino, but I'm culturally Japanese and culturally American. Ethnically Filipino because I only went there 3 times. I can't claim to be Filipino. I don't know what it's like to be Filipino. I don't speak Tagalog. My father is Filipino. And nationalities are your citizenship. If you've got a passport, it says U.S. or Canada, that's your citizenship. Citizenship has nothing to do with the color of your skin, the texture of your hair, and your eyes, and things like that. So, what if we were to divide the world by those who are lactose intolerant? Now remember that Katie and Nicole, my daughters, right? They're half-sisters. Nicole shall not, the whipped cream you had yesterday with dessert? Right? Some of you were kind of like, should I? Right? Nicole sees that and she already gets bloated. Which is great for Katie, because Katie eats all of Nicole's whipped cream. Right? So if 1/3 of the world is lactose intolerant, maybe we should just divide the world by those who are like, a room for those and a room for those who are not. But we don't, because it's internal. We can't see it. Do you take your shoes off? And that's just for those who are, in my case, in Japan. So it's not the DNA, it's not, the biological makeup necessarily that says you are Asian, or I am Asian. It's not the chromosomes. It's not even what we call the one-drop rule for African Americans or otherwise, in terms of what makes you Asian. How exactly do my epicanthic eye folds have to or have not to be where they are to make me Asian or not Asian? And so we have amazing people who tell the story from beyond in outer space. And we also have people in the diaspora of what we call Asia who may dress differently, eat differently. That is the experiences. And I don't want to go through all the details, but you think about it. Asia has 49 countries. It's 8.7% of the Earth's surface, 30% of the Earth's land area, 4.14 billion Asians. Right? That's just Asia, not Asian Americans, but Asia. 60% of the human population. 60%. Thousands of languages, many religions. It is literally the most diverse, what we call, race. And in America, It's a very small population, comparatively, but a huge influx and growth, and a very diverse definition of what Asian is. So we have to be empowered. We use those numbers. It's data. Seriously. Corporations and the media. Television. I work in television. Directors of programming don't understand the fastest growing populations in America are not the people who are represented in their TV shows. How do you expect the sponsors to make money off of groups of people who are not represented? I don't get it. So just look at the numbers. If you are a statistician, if you are a numbers person, and I guess some of us are, should ask my daughter. It's numbers, it's demographics, it's data. Collect that data, interpret it, and understand that the fastest growing population of people are not represented at all in politics, in the media. We have to be. Must we be? Yes, absolutely. So we have a lot of people who do represent that. We have people who are directors, we have actors, comedians, have models, and you have people from outer space again. And people in the corporate world, people who created Yahoo and YouTube, and CEOs of Pepsi-Cola, and people who have passed, people who are here, male, female, and that takes us to the future. It's the fabric of what we call the Asian experience. That is so amazing. Take a look around this room. Yesterday I spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people, and most people told me that they are more, not in so many words, but they are more than just Asian. My daughter is this, my husband is this, my wife is this, my parents are this. Isn't that amazing? And yet, right, the diversity within the Asian experience is what empowers us. Not just diversity in America, but diversity within each group. That is empowering. The diversity within your family. My two daughters are very different. And yet they are sisters, and they're my daughters, and their experiences are very different. So it's fabric. It's empowerment. And it's leadership. It's a way to engage in leadership. Understand who we are, celebrate who we are, and say, this is the world we're in. Let's get moving. So next year, 2014, August 22 to 24, I am producing what will become the United States, or North America's, largest simultaneous multi-city, multicultural festival with a heavy focus on the mixed or blended experience. And so it is our chance to voice our interests and concerns and celebrate what America is. We're starting in Richmond, Virginia, and we're adding cities as we go along. Celebrities are getting involved. Some large corporations are sponsoring this, and some great, great people. And I want you to come to my booth that's down in the convention area and talk to me about what you can do, what we can do. We will need a lot of people. We also need more corporate sponsors, but if there are people out there who are interested in learning more, please come visit me at the booth, and we can tell stories. I'd love to hear your story too. Thank you.